Welcome here. I am Linda Paulowska. I am a storyteller who shares life stories, but I don't just stop at storytelling. I actually dive deep to understand people and their journeys. My goal is to improve human experiences, which led me to the field of service design. I am now studying for an Erasmus Mundus master's degree in service design, where my class is filled with passionate colleagues from all around the globe. And since I love human stories, I couldn't resist sharing their amazing experiences with all of you. So I warmly invite you to this podcast series where we will talk about the journeys of my classmates traveling the world and, of course, diving into service design. Okay, so today my wonderful guest is my dear colleague Ginevra Papi from Italy, or as we call her, Gina. And as usual, I take some time to reflect and to think about how I see my dear guests. And I have written down something about Gina that will be maybe a surprise for you. So Gina is very, very energetic, very attractive.
Ooh.
Very super extroverted, and meanwhile she is very, very mindful of others' feelings. And generally Gina is the one who brightens up the class, and she ensures that we have some fun. And I think you are the personality that naturally gathers people around you. And then, meanwhile, you are super empathetic and you always consider how others around you would feel. And in a sense, I have the feeling that Gina is a fighter for equality. And you are always ready to stand up for your own rights and for others' rights. And I think you have this feeling to protect the vulnerable. Regarding the projects and professional life, Gina is super creative, and she ensures that her work is delivered in a high quality. And also she's super punctual and, in a sense, I think a bit of a perfectionist.
I do, yes. And wow, what a great introduction. I'm blushing. You guys cannot see it, but I'm blushing.
Yeah, and I would add, I think Gina is super reliable. You would always come on time and you would deliver the way you promised. So that's something good that I have really noticed about you.
Oh.
So Gina, hello, how are you?
Good morning, buongiorno. I'm good. I'm excited, a little bit nervous and sleepy. Because I'm not a morning person. And how are you?
I am doing good because I'm happy to have you here. This is our second time trying to record because we couldn't enter the building the previous time. So Gina, we are here to get to know you. So I would ask you to tell a bit about yourself, about where are you from, about your childhood, about your family, and how old are you? How deep do you want to go in? So just tell us, so we can get your background.
Okay, absolutely. So, as Linda mentioned, actually, I'll start from my name. So, my name is Ginevra, but literally anyone back home calls me Gina, and everyone in my life abroad calls me Gina. So, this is kind of funny, but it's a big part of, my identity, who I am. And I'm originally from Italy, but in particular, I'm from Florence.
Oh my goodness,
in Tuscany. Have you ever been?
No, but I would
God.
love to.
I literally consider myself extremely lucky to have been born in such a pretty city. I think it's, I'm not joking when I say that it's one of the most beautiful cities in the whole world. We're very proud that we were kind of like the heart of a Renaissance. Mm-hmm. And I would say that Florence really gives you this vibe of being the beacon of art, history, and culture. So although I don't know as much as I should about this whole thing, I'm still very proud. And it's such a beautiful, pretty place to have lived in and to have been born, so I feel very lucky.
Oh, okay, that's like a nice intro, very patriotic.
Yeah, yes, patriotic, but without the nastiness of the patriots.
Okay.
Do you want to know my family?
Yes, I know you have a sister.
Yes. So I have a loving family, and we are five. No, one, two, three, four. Yeah, we are five because there's Mama Sabrina, Daddy Sergio, my younger sister Matilde, and two cats who are also females. So Babbo Sergio is a lucky guy. He's surrounded by women, both humans and non-humans.
Okay. He has the pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, we should ask him. It's a lot sometimes. We bully him sometimes, but we love him.
Okay. And then, do you want to like jump in? How old are you? If you would feel free.
Yeah, sure. So I'm, I'm 31. Yes, in my mind, I'm forever 30 because after I left my 20s behind, now I'm like, oh, it's kind of a lot, but it's okay. The important thing is to be young at heart. But yeah, I'm 31, and yes. What else?
How old is your little sister?
Yes, so we are 3 years apart. So if I'm 31, she's 28.
Okay, because I met her recently
Yes.
and she was like super friendly and super smiling. I think it's like Italian smiles are here, Italian vibes.
In my mind, she's 12, but actually no, she's a grown-up adult, and I need to stop treating her like a child. But yeah.
Oh, how was your relationship with her when you were like little teenagers? and
Yes.
stuff?
Oh, what a relationship. We are very close, and we are, I think, personality-wise, we are very similar. But she's much more introspective and wise than I am. So actually, she's the wise sister, and she's the younger one. Of course, when you're kids, you have two girls yourself, so they love each other. But sometimes you bicker and like fights, stupid fights. But we do love each other. And then in our teens, it was complicated. We were close, but Mati had a bit of a more tough life than I had, and she was in the hospital for some time. So there was moments where it was hard for all of us to connect and stuff. But now she's bloomed again, but then since then, of course, I moved abroad, so I actually haven't lived with her or experienced daily life with her and sisterhood in the last 12 years. So it's kind of like this long distance love relationship.
Okay, we will get about your journeys.
Yes.
We will get to your journey stories. Yeah, and of course we are here to talk about education.
Yes.
So I know you have experience in UK, but you started your education journey in Italy.
Yes.
Okay, can you a little bit go into that? Did you finish high school there and have the school life there?
Yeah, sure. So before moving to the UK, I did high school back home in Italy, actually in Florence, like 10 minutes walk from home, which was one of the main reasons I picked that particular school. And we would translate it, we would call it linguistic high school. So we have different, of course, types of schools. And this particular one is kind of an education cycle of 5 years. So you start when you're 14, and then you get out when you are 18, 19. And the focus of a linguistic high school really is mastering at least 3 foreign languages.
Okay.
So everyone has to pick English, of course. And then I picked the other 2. I chose French and Spanish.
Okay.
Yes. But aside from that, which is, of course, the main focus, that's why it's called linguistic, you have also a wide array of humanities subjects, literature, history, art history, Latin. I was really bad at Latin. And also, to my own disappointment, a lot of science-related subjects, which I'm really bad in: math, physics, chemistry, science of the world.
Okay.
So it was a lot, It was a tough school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when you graduated, you decided I want to leave. So what's the story behind that?
Yeah, I think the story was I matured this idea that I really wanted to be independent quite soon.
Okay.
And I knew already that in Italy that would not be possible.
Okay.
Because we are not doing so well in terms of economy, in terms of finding jobs. Most people, my friends, my age, they would then go on to universities, but you cannot afford to live by yourself, so you have to literally stay with your parents for a long, long time until maybe you're 30.
Okay.
So I knew my priority was my freedom and my independence. So I was like, I know I cannot stay here any longer. And in the last year, so I wasn't a really good student, I must add. Back then I had a bit of my rebel phase.
Okay.
So I was skipping school a lot.
My
there was lots of
goodness.
troubles.
I could never tell, like knowing you now,
I know,
I
right?
would never tell. You were skipping school?
Yes, a lot. I was really bad. I was going to the hairdresser, I was smoking weed in the park, whatever.
Smoking weed in the park?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Your parents must be like,
Yeah,
okay.
I was not the easiest teenager, but somehow because of this desire that I had to move out, I was like, oh, I need to get a good grade in my final exam. We call it how do we call it? The diploma. Yeah, to get the diploma, you have to get a good grade. Also, because British universities, they require a minimum. Like you have to get a certain grade. So I gave it my all just in the final year of the 50-year cycle.
Okay.
And it was a bit annoying because my best friend, she's the opposite of me, She was always very good and precise and, she also kind of contributed to my success. But she was this one person that always studies perfectly and is constant, I was all over the place. I would do this maybe all night, pulling all-nighters to study for a specific test, and she was always studying and prepared. And then in the end, I got a higher grade in my diploma than her. So just because I gave it my all in the final year, she was like, this is not fair because I studied for 5 years and you give it your best just in the final year. Like, so yeah, sometimes we still talk about this. But in my final year, I gave it my all. So I actually got a pretty decent grade. So it's out of a 100 scale, and I got 88.
Oh, yeah.
And imagine before that, every single year in the summer, I would have to stay behind because I was failing maths and chemistry all the time. And so what you do is, you don't fail the year, but you have to stay in the summer in school to do extra courses. And then in September, just before the school year starts again, you have to give an exam to prove that you're better, so you can be allowed next. Which for somebody with anxiety, it was not pleasurable. But yeah, this is a bit of my high school journey. So I kind of started appreciating learning and education when I got to university.
Okay, and then straight, your intention already in high school was to go to the London, and to specifically because you have very specific field, as I understand. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you have bachelor's degree in criminology and in criminal science.
Criminal psychology.
Oh my goodness.
Criminology and criminal psychology.
Okay, was that like something that you were going to intentionally, and what was the story behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. So in this final year, also across with all my dreams for the future of being independent, I also started getting really interested. I think it's kind of a trend in society. True crime stories. I was really into Agatha Christie's books.
Okay.
Criminal Minds, a TV series, FBI stuff on TV all the time. It was that time where we got bombarded by things on TV and stuff. And then I started reading a lot. So I started reading books by Italian criminologists and foreign criminologists, reading essays, articles. And I think, yes, it still is a bit of a trend and a fandom. And I think in general, humans are very, for some reason, fascinated by the human psyche and human behavior, which is of course also related to service design, but not all behaviors are for the best. So sometimes somehow I developed this interest in learning more about violence and crime and criminal behavior and why that comes out, how big is the problem. So the reason to move to the UK specifically, I think it was partly because of this reason. In the UK, the discipline of criminology is something that's been there for a long time. Okay. In Italy, there's not a chance really to go into uni and study criminology. Either you do kind of 5 years of psychology, and then maybe you have to do a master in forensic psychology or whatever, or you studied law. And I'm like, I ain't doing this. I want something, as I told you, I wasn't the best student. I know myself quite well that I wouldn't have been able to survive in the Italian system because it's tough. I think uni in Italy gives you great preparation, but it's a bit old school. It's a lot of oral exams, cramming information and memorizing books by old people. All these professors are, sure, lots of title and stuff, but old people, And it's 5 years. And then this is the one option. And then I looked around and I was like, oh, UK, 3 years. You can study directly criminology, something you're interested in. Yeah. I mentioned to you in high school, we had so many subjects, and it was a really struggle for me because I'm very passionate about things, as you mentioned, but I am only passionate about the things that I care about.
Yeah, well, of course. We cannot be, yeah, of course. And then, like, so you went to UK to study, criminal psychology. And then you also have a master's degree in violence.
Violence, conflict, and international development.
Okay, what is that?
Yes,
And
yes.
is that from UK as well? So that's like you went straight from bachelor's to the master's?
No. So actually, and I didn't even went straight from high school to bachelor actually, because I was kind of clueless. And I moved to the UK thinking, in Italy you can apply for uni in the summer.
Okay.
And you can start in September.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh shit, in the UK you have to apply a year in advance to start the following academic year.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And there's a whole process in place. Like you don't apply to the uni directly. There's like a specific institution called UCAS that you apply to. You can put preferences, and they are in charge of kind of sending your application to different universities. And then different universities will review your application, and then they send back the response through UCAS. So what happened is I got there so clueless. Now that I think about it, it was very unlike me, because usually I'm very precise and organized. And then I was like, oh, I cannot start uni. So my mom was like, what do you do? Do you come back? Like, hell no, I'm staying here. So I kind of took actually a gap year. So, and in that year, I worked hard as a waitress in a Thai restaurant. And alongside, I was doing intensive English courses to get the better grades to get into universities.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so it's bachelor's, and then straight to master's?
No.
Okay.
What I did afterwards was I went to volunteer in Ghana for the first time.
That's another big topic that I have highlighted in my list. So after bachelor's, it's Ghana.
Yeah, for the first time.
There has been like more.
There's been 2 times.
Okay. So let's go to the first time in Ghana. What did you do there? And let me, guys, tell you, Gina has a lot of notes. She has been really preparing for this conversation.
Yes, because sometimes you confuse dates and stuff, and you don't remember exactly everything that you did. And I'm like, I don't want to say misleading information to the audience. But yeah, okay. So what happened was I graduated in criminology and criminal psychology, and then I thought, I have a free summer finally, because usually you have to study also in the summer, right? And I had, it was very stressful, submitting the thesis and everything. So I thought, I want to travel, but I just don't want to travel as a tourist. I want to travel doing something good for the community.
Okay.
So somehow I came across this organization, which is called Projects Abroad. It's not a non-profit, it's actually a company, but they call themselves the world leading organization for international volunteering projects and internships.
Okay.
So it's kind of a hybrid that I think fit my kind of values. Sure, the company might be based in the UK or the US, but they do have offices and collaborate with people at the local level. And they ensure that you have something to do that you can contribute to the community. Of course, this sometimes is not always what it seems, and we can discuss this a bit later. But okay, the organization is solid, but it's a company. It's not a non-for-profit. And of course, afterwards, when I went and studied for my master's, I realized many things about the international development and cooperation sphere that maybe we'll talk about later. But yeah, so I went there for about 2 months, and I was volunteering on what they called the human rights project/internship. So they do have, the organization has a local office called the Projects Abroad Human Rights Office in Accra, which is the capital of Ghana. And just for context, for people who don't know where Ghana is, it's a lovely, lovely country in West Africa, facing the Gulf of Guinea. And it's kind of sandwiched between Togo, Burkina Faso, and Côte d'Ivoire. So actually, in West Africa, most countries used to be French colonies and French-speaking. But Ghana is sandwiched between this French-speaking, and it was actually a British colony. And very interestingly, they gained their independence in 1957, being the first country in sub-Saharan Africa to free themselves of the colonialists.
Okay.
So, the story is was also really interesting to me because, for instance, it's a bit different, but when Italy was not unified, Tuscany was a duchy, it was a regional state. And we were the first people to abolish the death penalty, for instance. So this thread of kind of social justice and being independent and the freedom movement, comes across different parts of countries where I've lived or been. So yeah, I'm very proud of Ghana. Let's go, Ghana! Ghana is super good.
I think I already mentioned she's super extroverted.
So yeah, what else to say about Ghana? Yes.
What did you do there?
Yeah, what did you do? Yes. So the Human Rights Office. So they have, I would say, a bunch of lawyers and people who studied legal subjects from the community working in the office. And sometimes they need help with different tasks. So I think the main task for us was we were kind of researching and looking into international human rights instruments and national laws to see how they compare in terms of human rights. And then they have lots of issues that they are monitoring also to kind of keep the government accountable, I guess. So the government is doing their own assessments, but it's always good when you have a second eye coming from maybe civil society or different people. So in particular, we were kind of doing some, and this is linked to service design, we were organizing and facilitating different types of workshops and awareness raising activities, let's say, in the community to empower the youth and to kind of let them know that being an active citizen is important.
Okay.
Because human rights are very much linked to people being able to be empowered and know what their rights are. And when you start young is better. So this is just a bit about, let's say, let's call it human rights education.
Okay.
But then also we were asked to monitor specific issues. And these issues, I want to say it now before people complain and stuff, they are not just Ghana specific or West Africa specific, they happen everywhere. But they happen to be also quite some issues in there. So we were kind of doing some fact-finding mission on police brutality.
Oh, wow.
So the use of violence by police officers, and which are representing the government, of course. So it's important to know that the people who are in our government are there and they're supposed to be there to protect you, don't hurt you, and that they're not corrupt, and how do people in the community perceive the police. It's a very important aspect of human rights and security and safety, and the SDG number 16 on peaceful institutions. So this is one aspect. The other aspect is teenage pregnancy.
Okay.
So teenage pregnancy is still very much a big issue, and it can be linked to human rights in a way and to sustainable development. So we want to make sure that people, statistics at the national level reflect the real situation on the ground. Let's see, what's out there. So it's kind of like in service design. Sure, you have your statistic and qualitative data, but you should have stories from the ground to know how people experience the issue.
So did you actually get to talk to the teenage moms there?
Yes, a lot. Yes. Teenage moms, the community, people at all levels, but especially from the community. And the same is also to other issues that are kind of related to this, I would say, is child marriage. And something really interesting called ritual servitude, or they call it over there trokosi. So the Ghana, I would say, is mostly people practice Christian religions of different types, not just Catholic, different denominations. Then in the north, they are Muslim, but also there are some people who are still practicing, they call it traditional religion. So they have traditional shrines, and it's really religions from the old days, let's say. And as part of this, there are still some people who believe that if somebody in your family has committed a crime or something bad against another, you can, to appease the gods, you can give one of your daughters or sons to the shrine to serve as in the shrine.
Oh, wow.
So there was something that
Did you actually get to see this happening in life? Is it like a real common thing that you can experience there?
So it's more common in specific areas than others. In Accra, the big city, you don't really see that. But when you go to the countryside, sometimes you can see it. You don't call it as such, but you can feel it. So I would say, without labeling it as such, I did see it.
Okay, but so it wasn't just working in an office in the capital. It was actually going into the rural areas as well to see the people.
Yes. So sometimes we would go to the office. We would have daily briefings, and we will take it from there. Also because the situation working there is not easy, because there's power outages all the time. So sometimes maybe you're supposed to do a report, but there's no electricity. So so the boss was like, okay, then today we're not doing the report, we're going out in the community talking to people, or we're giving a workshop, we're going to a school, we're going to the countryside, we're talking to these people. They're very they're very entrepreneurial, and they find different ways of organizing the work around this, which, again, for us, we take it so much for granted,
Oh yeah, we really do.
Wi-Fi, electricity, and then, sometimes, sure, people have generators, but the generator will not stay on forever. And sometimes the electricity goes 3-4 days, and you're like, so what? We have to do something else,
Okay, and where did you live there?
Yes, so all the volunteers are placed in host family.
Host family. A local Ghanaian family?
Yes, local Ghanaian family. I was staying with another volunteer who was from Germany, who was doing a project in education. So she was working in the orphanage. So we were going different workplaces, but we were staying with a retired teacher. And she was a widower. And she had somebody working for her at her house. Okay, it's not ritual servitude, but another phenomenon which is really common is people living in the city and people who maybe have more education and more access to resources usually host people, relatives or people that they know from the countryside in their house to help out, house helpers.
Okay.
So there was a young girl also, aside from our the main teacher, living there, who actually was doing everything for us. Cooking, cleaning, doing the room. So also that for me was very weird.
Okay.
I know it's important for them because it's still a job. And of course the teacher who was hosting her also was sending her to school, of course. But, as a privileged white kid who never had to lift a finger in her whole life and childhood, seeing another child basically doing this for you, it's
About
hard.
how old would be the child?
Hard to tell. 13? 13, 14.
Okay.
Yes. And this is one of the many cultural shocks that you have. And then, it's like you have to understand it really. You cannot just say, oh, this is not okay, because you know how I am, this is not okay. And then I thought, okay, Gina, but why are you so triggered by this? And I think it's because you realize your own privilege first. So that hurts, realizing that, oh, I had it so easy. And then there's people my age doing things that I would never want to do. And then this is it's something a bit between guilt or shame. It's a weird feeling. And then I was like, okay, let's go deeper. What's behind this? And then it's understanding the local context and not judging just, it's very easy to say, oh, in Ghana, people are poor, or in Ghana, kids work. Yeah, okay, this doesn't help, It's, again, in life, this happens also in Italy. In Florence, we have a huge textile industry and leather industry, and there's a lot of, in the Chinese community, is also very common that the kids work in the factories and stuff. So, it happens anywhere. But at first, it's kind of hard to process all of this and to put it into context and not to be either too judgmental or trying to say, this is not okay, we need to fix it. Like, it's not up for us, white people, to go there and fix it. Yeah. So when you realize this, so that experience for me was a lot. It was mixed feelings, a lot of emotions, me trying to understand it from a proper point of view without my Western ideals. And that's also what prompted me to study violence, conflict, and development.
So going to that, so you spent this 2 months in Ghana in the summer, and then you went back to the UK?
Yes.
And then you went for the master's?
Yes.
Straight then?
Yes.
Okay, and go a bit into that. And then after you went to the second time to Ghana?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go to your master's degree now.
Yeah. So after this experience, I was like, oh, I really want to understand better how these whole things fit together, Okay. Because it's not just about violence, either at the interpersonal level or at the macro level. It's not just about sustainable development. It's not just about specific continents or countries who are struggling versus the rest. So I wanted to understand more broadly. So the master kind of moves away from this interpersonal violence and conflict and tries to shows you what are the linkages between the historically and the present situation in different countries and sustainable development, whilst still having a look on violence, but more about the political economy of violence. So macro level, wars, terrorism, genocide, how those things that happens in the history affects then sustainable development in certain countries, and colonialism, and taking a proper big look at yourself and your own white privilege. And I went to study this at SOAS, which is the School of African and Asian Studies, which is one of the world leading institutions on the study of anything related to Africa.
So you were super passionate by your experience in Ghana, yeah? That was that inspired you to do this.
Inspired me and showed me that I knew nothing, and I still know nothing. And I think we need to realize that we know nothing, and we're not here to fix other people or other countries' problems, which for something like me, who always wants to fix and help people, it's not easy, but sometimes it's not your job, you know? People are very capable over there. They can do it by themselves. They don't need me. Actually, that's also when I realized, being there, sure, I can write reports, I can organize workshops, but I'm not an expert, you know? So how unfair is it that you have all these white people coming to your countries to help you? Like, why, what kind of help, you know? What I mean, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a human rights lawyer, I didn't have practical skills. So I also, that also sparked this whole debate about how the humanitarian and international cooperation sector works, and all these companies, they kind of profit from this, because Projects Abroad is a good company. I'm not saying, you know, anything bad about them, but it is part of a much broader system, which is very complex and sometimes corrupt and difficult, and, you know, they still profit from sending white people to developing countries, doing projects. Sure, it's good for me, for my CV. Is it very good for them? I'm not sure that the benefits for them are as high as I get it. You know, I get a really nice thing on my CV. It shows that I've been abroad. What about them? You know, it's not about me here. So that was also reality check for me. Yeah.
Okay, and then you did your master's and you went back.
Yes. So
straight after your master's, you went back.
Yes, this time around, it was a bit different. So learning on my lessons, what I did is I applied for the official International Citizen Service in the UK, which is the official, let's say, overseas volunteering program sponsored by the Department for International Development of the UK government.
Okay.
So this time around, it was a governmental project. I qualified because by that point, I had been living and studying in the UK for over 5 years, so I could count as a UK person. But I know in Italy we have the same program, maybe organized slightly different. So the International Citizen Service or the National Citizen Service, I think many countries in the EU, they have it. So I did the UK one because I was living there and I was studying there. So I was sent with a bunch of British people to an assessment center. So this time around, they test your skills. So the previous time I paid to go there. It was like, you pay, you go there, and they offer you the internship.
Wait. You paid for what?
To go the first time in Ghana, I paid to go there, you know, so it's a company.
I thought you are going to as a volunteer,
yes.
So they are kind of funding you.
Yeah, no, you pay them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying, you know, it's a company. So what they do is...
Well, I thought maybe they like kind of attract like money from somewhere else, not from the volunteers.
No. It is a company. So this is, yeah.
Okay.
So just to clarify why I was talking about Projects Abroad is because you realize it's a company. So you pay and they offer you a placement in a country so then you have something to do for your CV, basically. This is the bottom line. Of course, it's much more than that. They also put you in the local family. They have to pay the local family to host you. Of course, it's not for free. You pay your own flights. So I paid to go there. So as I mentioned, I wanted to go on a holiday, but wanted to do something good. So that was that's what they call in the sector volunteerism.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And so this time around, learning on all of this, I decided I might not feel comfortable funding companies for giving me work in a community that I know nothing about without proper skills. So I did, okay, let's go and do the governmental sponsored program where you actually go through a much more rigorous assessment to get into the program, you know? So I had to go to a specific place, do interviews, this psychometric test. Then after you pass that, they assign you to a place. You don't get to decide. So the first time I decided, I want to go to Ghana Human Rights Office. And this time was just by chance, you know? They have so many projects around the whole world, projects and countries. And then based on whatever is available in that specific time frame where you applied, they send you somewhere. And they're like, Gina, you're going to Ghana. I'm like, ooh, really? So I was like, yes! And before you go into the country, you have to do a lot of training after you pass. So we had lots of cross-cultural communication training, diversity training. So this time around was much more proper, and they pay for you. But to show commitment, and I think this is really good, you're also asked to fundraise some money yourself. And this money goes into a specific projects that you would like to do once you reach the destination. So I fundraised 1,500 pounds. Different means, like bucket challenge in the street, baking cakes at school, parents, how do you call it, crowdfunding, which we then donated to the local charity with whom they partner with. So this time I felt more comfortable, it was more fair, I already had a degree, so I wasn't just, high schooler or whatever. At the time also I had a degree, but it was different. I don't know, how to explain it. And this time around, I wasn't placed in the capital city, but we were sent in the in the eastern region of South Ghana. So this is Accra, overlooking the Gulf, and you just go very rural. And this is a tiny, tiny village that you cannot even find on Google Maps.
Really?
Yeah, called Ojarde. The closest city that you will find on Google Maps is called Asamankesi. And we were kind of like a bunch of 20 volunteers split in 3 different villages. So we would live separately in 3 little villages and then meet once a week for kind of like brainstorming and different activities.
How long time did you stay there?
I stayed there for months.
4 months?
Yes.
This time. Okay.
So in total, I've been there for a total of 7 months across 2 times.
And then I think this is the experience you have been telling me before during our breaks in the school and stuff. So you lived within the family.
Yes.
This is where you actually experienced the life in small Ghanaian village.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yes, on my days.
And about like what time did you have to wake up and the work you had to do and the way you lived there. So.
Oh my God. Man, it was the best time of my life. I think I was the first person who kind of like got really into this whole thing. Sure, I think I had been to Ghana before, and maybe that helped a bit with language barrier slightly. Back then I knew some words of Twi. The interesting things about Ghana, of course, is the official language is English. But again, Ghana used to be kind of different regional states and used to be made up of so many tribes. So they have over 100 different local languages. So imagine. And another really great thing about the project, which I mentioned now before saying what I was doing, is it's not only the white, volunteers going to the country, but also people from Ghana, from different regions, also apply for the program. Okay. So you get matched with a Ghanaian counterpart. And then this Ghanaian counterpart, who's also from a very different place, will come to you to this village. So my Ghanaian counterpart, Elizabeth, she was from the north of Ghana. She spoke a completely different language than the one spoken in the village where we were matched. And me and her, we were living together in a local family.
Okay.
So this is... you see the difference already. So you're matched with a Ghanaian counterpart who it's kind of like, so already you start to interface yourself with somebody very different from you. Also, it's they are benefiting from it. It's a volunteering program for them as well. They're funded to be there. They also come from a different place. And then you are in this tiny rural village in a different regions trying to do something good together. So already this was great.
So how was your life there?
Yes.
Waking up at 5 and working on the field.
Yes.
With the family.
Yes. So I was hosted, everyone was hosted by a family, and their families are very numerous. So my family was one of the fewest Muslim families in the village. There was, oh my God, so many kids. I don't even remember how many.
Really?
Yes. There's kids, and then their kids have already kids. So, wow. So we were given our own... separate room, myself and Elizabeth. So what you do is everyone sleeps on the floor. It's really warm. The houses are kind of they're colored, but they're made of mud. It's really interesting structures. I don't know how they do it. It's super cool. And it's kind of huge. It's kind of a huge block, and then you have a front yard and a backyard. In the backyard, there's the toilet. We're not going to talk too much about the toilet, but yeah. It's like a pit. It's like in Italy, we would call it the Turkish toilet, So it's like there's a pit, and that's it.
Okay.
And then it's closed. And then in the front yard is where you have the fireplace. There's no garbage collection, so most garbage is set on fire in the front yard. And everyone kind of like... puts everything on the floor, and then at the end in the morning at 5 a.m. With some brooms, everyone gathers their own stuff next to the fire, set it on fire. Let's go, it's gone. Another cultural shock, of course, for us. But yeah, we were waking up. Everyone wakes up really early, and imagine I was getting out again after my master's, so I was used to stay up until 4 a.m. writing my thesis. And now I have to go to bed at 8 p.m. so I can be up at 4 a.m. So I had to change my routine completely. And as I mentioned in the beginning, I'm not a morning person, so it was really hard. And it's kind of like 40 plus degrees already at 4 in the morning. No, not 4 in the morning, but shortly after. And then you have the showers. And the showers, do you remember the trend, the bucket challenge? Yes. So there, the bucket challenge is every day. So you take your bucket, you go, you fill it with water, you bring it to the shower, which is kind of like what you would find in the beach, you know, like it's a concrete, and then you do your bucket challenge on yourself. Oh. Yes, it was fun, but you sweat a lot, and I needed much more than the 2 showers that I was allowed to take, because water is precious there, and it's like again something you take for granted. Electricity.
Did I have electricity?
No.
No.
Not in Ojarde. In Accra they do. In Ojarde they don't. That's why you live with the sun, and that's why you have to wake up at 5, because you have to make the most of it. So there was also a lesson, living through the laws of nature and not taking electricity for granted.
And then you went to the field. They were working with cocoa. What did they do?
Yes. So one thing about Ghana, 2 important things. The most important thing is that they are the biggest producer of cocoa, and all their cocoa is exported to Europe, Switzerland and the likes, where they turn it into actual chocolate.
Yes.
So another really unfair thing of life and culture shock is people don't have access to chocolate.
You told me this, and it was like kind of like
It's
mind-blowing. They prepare the material for the chocolate.
It's a raw material. Like also I didn't know where cocoa come from, right? And as a kid you eat lots of chocolate. It comes in a pod. So it's a bean. It's like a coffee bean, but it's a cocoa bean. It's kind of like green shaped. It becomes yellow when it's ripe. You open it and there's beans inside. And then when you can eat the raw bean, but the flavor and the texture is completely different from what actual chocolate is. And that's what they know. That they eat the beans and stuff, but it's not chocolate, right? And of course now things have changed. Also, I would like to say that this story that I'm talking about is first time I went to Ghana 2015 and second time 2017. So I'm sure things are changing, but back then it was just not the norm to have chocolate. They have maybe some small local brands, but it's very expensive. Most the good thing for cocoa farmers and from the village where I was based into is that the government buys all your cocoa from you. So you're a local farmer in whatever part of Ghana, and there's maybe 1-2 harvest seasons a year. Everything you harvest, the government buys from you and sells it to Western countries to produce chocolate for you, which of course afterwards gets a really high price put on. So they are not importing back chocolate. So maybe there are I'm sure there are some small operations of local chocolate, but Lindt, this stuff, they're all fueled with raw materials from Ghana and not only Ghana. So there was also something really weird for me, and that chocolate comes in a bean and it doesn't taste like chocolate. It's interesting, but
How did the locals accept you? How did they feel about you there?
Yes, okay. As it goes in international development and cooperation, we were part of a 1-year-long project, and we were the last batch of volunteers
so they were
to get
already
there.
used to volunteers. Okay.
We were the 4th wave of volunteers, so they were definitely more used to it. Maybe perhaps also a bit fed up, which is fair enough. I would say my host mom wasn't the easiest person. She was a very difficult woman, very opinionated, a bit blunt, a bit rude. I liked her though, because why do you have to be extra nice to me just because I'm white or a volunteer? You don't have to. But yes, amongst the host families, I think myself and also Elizabeth, because Elizabeth, my counterpart, who is also Ghanaian, didn't speak their language. So I can see that sometimes also she's having troubles with the host mom. So I was like, okay, it's not just about me. And actually, super weird as well and kind of not cool at all. Somehow, they were treating me better than her. Right? So there was a bit of weird dynamics in there. But yeah, my host mom was a character, let's put it this way. And I think she was a bit fed up, and she was definitely doing it, and it's fair enough also for the money, they get paid to host us. So she was doing, the bare minimum, and it's fine by me, I'm not there to be pampered by you. But yeah, I saw how other host families were treating other volunteers, and I think, why not, This is also one of the tells you a lot about international cooperation, you know? When you give monetary incentives to people, you know, then the motivation decreases. It's a lot about behavioral psychology as well, right? And, you know, we're the fourth wave of people, and, you know, these people are busy. Life in rural Ghana is not easy, you guys. You know, no electricity, you have to fetch for water, you have to work in the fields, you have to wake up, you have tons of kids, you have to prepare them, send them to school, pay the fees. Schools are not free there, you know? In Italy, schools are free. 6 to 16, the state takes care of you. There, nothing is free. The government, you know, is still working on different policies and stuff. So for me, it was totally fine, but it is true that it's kind of it was a funny situation sometimes with her. And then, you know, there's all these small things that you don't know about the culture. For instance, I'm left-handed, and the left hand is used to clean your butt. Punto. So when I go to people and introduce myself, I would put my left hand, and she was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Bro, I don't know, I'm left-handed." So I had to stop using my you cannot even eat with the left hand, you know? And I'm like, "Man, I'm left-handed." No. It was so funny. So many small things, or like the fact that I was back then I was a vegetarian. And of course, you go into a community where agriculture is a subsistence agriculture. So they don't have necessarily fertilizers. It rains when it rains, and if it doesn't rain, it doesn't fucking rain. Yeah. So, you know, you don't have access to all these fresh veggies or fruits or whatever. Yeah. I don't even like many fruits and many vegetables anyway. I'm the worst vegetarian or vegan now. But basically what I'm trying to say is they offer you what they have. And that's, you know, they're super generous, and they feed you, they give you what they have. And for me, it was a struggle because it was like mutton and lamb, and I'm like, oh, my worst nightmare, man, I cannot have this. And everything is so spicy. So it's like, everything is so spicy, and it's so warm, and it's so spicy. You're burning your mouth, your body's burning because of the sun, your mouth is burning. I cannot eat with my left hand, you have to eat with your hands. And I'm like, ayuto. And everyone is looking at you and laughing at you because you look like a moron. So the kids are like, what is this girl doing, you know? And the mom was like, oh, look at her, she doesn't know how to do anything. And also, I'm Italian, but I'm the worst cook. I don't like cooking, I'm the worst. And although I was a Girl Scout for some time, I learned nothing about, you know, starting a fire or cooking. So sometimes they would tell me, okay, like, Gina, help us cook. Okay, fine. I don't know, and they have some root vegetables. The only thing that I could eat properly, because it was not spicy, is these root vegetables. They look like potatoes, but they're not potatoes. They're called cassavas and yams. So I was like, okay, now take the knife, and you kind of have to peel them, you know? And even that I couldn't do. I was peeling them by taking out too much. And she was like, you're wasting it. You're good for nothing. And also, another funny thing is...
That's like a psychological training in that.
Yes. But I'm like, they're right, you know? This is when you realize, I'm so freaking privileged. I never had to do any of this. I don't know how to do anything. And the kids here are so entrepreneurial and good, and they know how to cut wood, they know how to start a fire. Yeah. They're like, you know, it's like, our kids are too spoiled. That's what I realized, you know? And, you know, for some people, they would say, oh, but kids here, they have to work a lot. Yeah, sure, but they are learning very important skills for life. So for me, it's like, where do we find the balance between treating children like morons, that they're not, and, okay, maybe having children work when they're 3 or 4 or 5. Yeah. My whole sister, oh my God, she was 4 years old. She was cleaning her clothes by hands by herself. And I'm like, you're cute, and me, like, struggling with my clothes. And she was like, you're doing it wrong. And also beauty standards, another funny thing. Of course, being a bit more voluptuous is a good thing in the culture. And I've always been flat-chested and skinny. So, you know, I wasn't, let's say, the most appealing woman there. So everyone wanted to feed me. You have to eat more, because otherwise no man will have you. I'm like, ugh. Okay, fine. So they made lots of jokes around me, you know, like when I went to fetch water, I was fetching my water. So you have to walk for like, I don't know, 5 miles or whatever. And then you have to get to the well, and then you have to take it, and then you have a bucket, and then you put your bucket on your head and you go. Of course, first of all, they're really good. They don't have to keep the bucket with their hands. Yeah. And also their buckets are huge. Like you have small kids with huge buckets, and there's me with like, you know, the small bucket that we used to go to the seaside. Yes. So I was like, ha ha ha, look at the white girl with a small bucket. I'm like, come on. But you know, I didn't get offended by any of it. Actually, it was super interesting, and it made me realize, Mamma Mia, I'm a useless person. I don't know how to do anything.
Okay, and like
Okay, so you spent 4 months like this.
But I didn't say the good thing that we did also. So the first time around it was a human rights project, and this time around it was supposed to be what they call a livelihoods project. So as I mentioned, people in the community are mainly cocoa farmers. So their main source of livelihood is planting, harvesting, and selling their cocoa to the government and getting money for it. But as I mentioned, because of infrastructure, it's subsistence. So what happens during the year when you don't have any longer cocoa to sell or harvest? How do you live? What do the women do versus the men?
Yeah.
So we were meant to kind of go into the community and check the situation. What kind of livelihoods and alternative livelihoods could there be for people in the community when they're not doing the cocoa? And especially the role of women, which of course is very dear to me, the role of women and girls and education. So we did a bit of research on what the livelihoods are. We asked people, what do you think you could do or you would want to do if it's not cocoa farming, when there's no cocoa farming? Because you have kids to feed, mouth to feed, and cocoa, you sell it, and then the rest of the 12 months, what do you do? And alongside of this, we were, of course, most women, let's say our generation and above, they unfortunately never had the chance to go to school. As I mentioned, school there is not free, and sometimes you have to decide which kids you send to school. And because of society and how society is structured, also in our side of the world, it was the same for us a long time ago. Mostly you would perhaps pick the boys over the girls to send to school. So we also kind of were training the women in basic bookkeeping, how to count, because if you want to start a business of any sort, even selling something that's not cocoa, you want to sell your cassavas that we sell, you have to know, how to price them and how to sell them, money and stuff. So we did that. What else we did? What happened the good thing that happens when you live in the community, I think, is you set out to do something about a livelihoods project. And then you realize that you're part of a family, you're part of the community. So anything that happens in the community is also something that happens to you. So we actually got to do much more on different things that were not part of the official project.
Yeah.
So for instance, we were there during the season of the raining season. And when it rains there, fucking hell, it rains, It doesn't rain, but when it rains, it's like floods. So sometimes school gets damaged. So we decided that we were going to help them rebuild the classrooms. So, how do you call it? I also learned some bricklaying skills, how to do bricks from mud, how to plaster, how to paint. And then we said, okay, since we're painting, we should also maybe create some learning aids for people in schools, because they haven't got posters, they haven't got printers, so there's nothing. So to make the school a bit more, we were writing numbers on the walls and these kind of things. Also, something really close to my heart, I realized that many kids. So our village, which was already tiny, there were many kids coming from even smaller villages in the friggin' mountains. Like they had to walk, 1 hour to get to school. And sometimes their parents are working or whatever, and they want to stay at school a bit longer. So we also established after school clubs, reading clubs for the primary school, so the kids could stay and do the homework with us before going home, because when they go home they have to work. So we were trying to keep them there for a little longer. And for the girls in the secondary school, so already a bit older, 10 above, we realized that we really need to empower them from a young age, because that's the best thing you can give people. You don't have to help them, you just have to show them what the alternative is. So we founded what we call the Girls Club. And the Girls Club is meant to be a safe space where women and girls and females can talk about things that usually you cannot talk with your mom or in society, I don't know, periods, oh my God, I don't know how they deal with also menstrual health and sexual health there. It's a complicated situation. It's super taboo. I mean, it's taboo in our society, so imagine back there, and everyone is so religious. So the religion doesn't help, I'm sorry to say, in this case. Talking about this stuff, I think was important part of the thing that we did. And then another really interesting project that randomly we ended up doing was, we realized that many people from the small villages were not coming to school. And the teachers are not paid enough, let's say, to be wanting to do extra. So, if this person is not coming to school, is not coming to school. In our side of the world, if you don't send your kids to school for a few days, maybe you get some social services involved or whatever. It's, they should be there. But there doesn't work because it's complicated. And also the teachers, they don't live there.
Okay.
So they have to travel from the nearest city to there, except there's no public transport. So sometimes they cannot get to school. So sometimes you go to school and the kids are there and there's no teacher. So I don't think it was the best option, but sometimes we would be the teachers.
Ah, okay.
Because it's like better than nothing, Okay, I'm not a trained teacher, but I can speak English. I can, they have subjects in their books which are like ICT, so technology, and they never have even seen a computer. So we had our computers from home. So, okay, I'm not a teacher, but I can show you how a computer looks like, how it works. So suddenly they had this frenzy where everyone got to know Paint application. Do you remember Paint application?
Yes.
So everyone's like, Paint application. Stupid things. But what do you do when your government is not sending you the teachers? Okay, Gina will come in, tell you some bullshit. Better than nothing, because they will show up there. Sometimes they're like, where is the teacher? I didn't come today. Like, okay, fine, we'll be there. So this is one thing. So wannabe teacher. And also we did a census of how many people from our village and nearby villages of school age are not going to school. So we made a list of people, names, ages, to give to the local government so they could try and do something about it. So that was also interesting. So we walked across all the villages and said, and when you talk to people, that's when you really realize, as we know in service design, it's not just a number. Like, okay, I know now the reasons why they're not going to school, and it's a more or less valid reason, and somebody should or should not do something about it. So there was things, and then we fundraised to build the first health post. I don't want to call it hospital because it was not a hospital, but at least to get a nurse come into the village once or twice a week. Because, people also in the village, they have health issues. There's pregnant women. If something happens and there's no public transport, nobody has a car, what do you do? People can die. So it was really important for us that even in the village, they would get access to at least a community nurse, they call it. Community nurse coming once, twice a week to check on people like the pregnant ladies or, people who have big disabilities. So, so this was one of the many things that we did.
Yeah, it sounds like you had like a full time in there.
Oh my God, it was the best time of my life, Linda, man. I was so sad when I left. I couldn't stop crying. And the Ghanaians, they have this really good attitude. They're like, but why are you crying? We will see each other again. We will, we did something good here. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to live. Blah. They take it, Hakuna Matata is really a thing. You have to take life, the best of it, what life gives you. They have a great outlook in life. They have, it's a stoic philosophy that I really don't have, which I have to learn.
Okay, and then you, trying to get back to the, life in where
in
you went back to UK.
Yes.
So you didn't go to Italy. So you chose to go back to UK.
Yes.
And then we have to move to some your what did you do after when you went back, when you got back, and how did you get to the service design?
Yes.
Not yet jumping into the studies.
Okay.
But what did you do after? So you returned from this experience, then you see.
I came back, long story short, I was a bit fucked. I gained 10 kilos. I was taking Malaron for malaria. I was all bloated. I passed from 40 degrees to 5. I didn't have a home because I left my dorms and my home to go to Ghana. So I was staying in the dorm of my friend who was still writing her thesis. So I would sleep in her bed during the day because I was on a different time zone while she was in the library doing her thesis, and then we would switch. It was difficult. And then I was looking for a job in international development, and you realize, not so easy after all. It's very competitive landscape. It's also a very difficult, kind of fucked up system in a way, like many other systems in society. You have to know lots of languages really well. If you want to work anywhere in West Africa, you have to be super proficient in French, which I wasn't. You have to have a driving license, which I didn't. So I was like, okay, I was looking for jobs during the summer. It was a struggle. So I decided I would go back home for a while. I went back home, and I wasn't the only one amongst my friendship groups looking for jobs. So I applied, and I ran into a graduate scheme called Charity Works. Okay. So graduate schemes in the UK are quite common. They are kind of programs that match you with a placement organization. Usually lots of corporate organizations do it, but Charity Works was the first UK non-profit kind of graduate scheme. So what you do is similar to what I told you about Ghana. So you go through this assessment, psychometric test, blah, blah, blah. And then they will tell you, okay, based on you, who you are, your application, we will match you with this charity. And I got matched with a charity in Sheffield.
Oh.
In the field of, it was a non-profit membership organization representing community, energy and renewable projects.
Okay.
So different area of life, but I was like, yeah, energy sounds cool, you know me, like anything related to the SDG floats my boat. So after Italy, I did a bit of summer, I went on vacation in Barcelona, and then in Barcelona I got the good news that I got a spot, so I moved back to the UK, but this time to Sheffield, so up north, which was also interesting because everyone thinks that life in the UK is like living in London, but the real UK is not London. London is just a separate thing, so it was funny to live in the north. They're a bit more open and funny, and I worked there for a year. And after that, I applied for internship at the European Commission related to the Department of Energy because of my experience in the charity, and I got a good response after all. So I was gonna stay maybe a year longer in Sheffield because my boss was gonna extend my contract. Instead, I moved to Brussels.
Oh,
and that was after the Brexit as well. So it was, you know, I at that point I had lived in the UK for 7 years. I was a bit tired. I broke up with the boyfriend, lots of troubles. Moved to Sheffield, Brexit, and I'm like, yeah, let's go to Europe, you know, because Brexit was really a shit show, still is. And I couldn't believe that I couldn't even vote for it, despite having lived there for 7 years. You're not allowed to vote in referendums if you don't have a British passport. It was, it's so stupid.
So Brussels.
So in Brussels. So long story short, in Brussels, I did my internship at the Commission for 5 months. It was a blast. You can imagine me working in the Commission. You know, I was the only person with a septum piercing. I was dressing very unconventionally, but somehow I won some hearts. But of course, I'm not necessarily the type that would enjoy, I guess, being a civil servant or working in the public sector. It was a great experience because, you know, when you're an intern, you get to experience all these new things and go to different buildings and try different stuff, do your own projects. But it's a great job to be a civil servant, but I didn't necessarily see myself there, or rather, I don't have maybe the personality traits to be able to get into the system, if you know what I mean. And I didn't want to study for the test. Also, that's another thing, because I hate maths, and they have to do really like extensive tests and stuff. So whatever. But I was like, yeah, but I like Brussels. Sounds like it's a cool place if you are a bit of an activist like I am, you know. You get to learn a lot about campaigning, about advocacy. So I decided to stay, and then for the following almost 5 years, I worked as a communications and public relations officer.
Okay.
For a international NGO working to advance funding and focusing of EU policies on cancer prevention and cancer research.
Okay.
So it was, again, another membership association, and our members were local, they call it cancer leagues in different member states. So we were representing the interests of the national cancer leagues to the EU, and my job was very interesting, but a lot about events management, writing press releases, managing the social media, writing articles, blogs, speeches, presentations, and it was good. It was good until it wasn't, because with the pandemic, I burnt out because everyone's like, yeah, working online, working from home. Yes, but try do my job, which is all about communication and event management online. It was so much extra work, and people think that organizing online events is better, but sometimes it's not. So it was tough. I worked too hard. I was living in a kind of like a hostel back then, sharing the room with another girl. I didn't go along with that very well. So when you're stuck in the room together, it's always good. And then my friend, who was also living in the hostel, decided to go back to Spain. And I'm like, please give me your room. Yeah. So finally, I had a room for myself. I was like in exchange of keeping her plants and basil alive. But yeah, it was tough. It was interesting. But then I realized there was something missing in my career journey. Yes. That I wasn't just interested in communicating about projects and services and initiatives, but I wanted to be part of creating them.
Okay, and this is how service design comes in.
Yes, kind of. I didn't know back then. And as I mentioned to you before, I mentioned maybe I was organizing workshop in Ghana, whatever. So very small in the toolbox and tool set and techniques of service design. I think I had already done some things, but I just didn't know what to call it. And this realization, still, when I realized this in Brussels, I still didn't know what the hell service design was. And then, classic Gina, what do I do? Instead of saying, okay, I burnt out, I'm going to take a holiday, whatever. Like, I left my job, I applied for a working holiday visa, I packed a bag, I left Brussels in a rush and went to do my grown-up gap year in Australia.
Oh, wow.
Because of me, you just don't burn out and say, okay, I'm going to take a holiday, I'm going to find it, or like, oh, I'm just going to change job. Like, no, drop everything and go. This is me. I need always drastic changes. Like why also I change my hair color or I shave my head. If I don't do sudden changes to myself, I don't feel alive or something. So I went to Australia, long story short, okay, what to do next? I did a bit of odd jobs, like working, picking vegetables, packing salads and in the night shift in a factory, or just chilling. My parents also came over, we did a van trip, whatever. But in all of this, I'm like, I pretend that, it's okay. I mean, not I pretend, like, I like chilling, but no, it's not true that I like to chill so much. So I thought of like, I'm gonna take a big year travel, but after a while I get bored. And I'm like, okay, no, I really need to get my shit together. What am I gonna do next? So, because of Brussels, of course, I was aware of the Erasmus Mundus program and Erasmus program in general, Erasmus Plus, whatever. And then it just suddenly occurred to me, I was in the rainforest with my parents in a small van. It was so fucking warm. And I'm like there with my laptop thinking about my life. And I'm like, okay, random thought. Let's check the Erasmus Mundus catalog. And at the point, still no clue what to do. So I look at the filter section and I'm like, let's click social sciences, let's click humanities, start scrolling, service design, innovation strategies. What is this? And then I click and then this amazing website pops up and the brand colors are purple and I'm like, I like it already. When we talk about the information design, I'm like, sometimes it's all just about the font and the visuals. I'm like, interesting. And then I read it and I'm like, ooh, this sounds exactly like what I want to do in life. So I think that's when I realized, there is a name, or rather there's a discipline or a mindset, or call it whatever you want to call it, that can bring together my different passions, which are understanding human behavior, chatting to strangers, and organizing workshops and facilitation. And I'm like, okay, yes, apply. And then I applied, and when I did my, the interview, in my break time, when I was packing salads in some random town 4 hours from Melbourne, with the Finnish people who, it was probably very early morning for them and it was afternoon for me, and I was overly excited. So imagine, I'm already excited in general. I was already excited. I think I was speaking too fast and it was too enthusiastic, like, so nice to see you, so nice to meet you. And they're like, the Finnish guy, good morning, with a cup of coffee. I was super tanned. They were super white with this coffee, and me, like, I'm tanned, and I'm like, hello from Australia. And they're like, oh my God, who's this girl? So my mom was like, how did it go, Gina? And I'm like, Mom, either they love me or they hated me. I don't know.
It's like, if you guys would see Gina talking, because like she's like showing everything with her hands and stuff. And so I can imagine this like interview with the serious people in Finland, and seeing her, and if she's overexcited, she gets like very, how do you call this? When people are very like
amusing gestures
a lot like with the gestures and like, oh, okay, but they love you.
I prepared. I don't know if they love me, but I think I convinced them. I think they appreciated, and this is also very important because I'm also very much into human resources, and I really like, to look at like tailored cover letters and the kind of things they do. And I think it's very important that, again, it's a conversation.
Yes.
It's not just so I was trying to make it a conversation, and I was asking them questions as well, So I think there was, I saw some spark in the eye of the guy. I was like, this girl is asking questions, it's good, And as we know in service design, always ask why.
Yes.
why? So yeah.
Okay.
And I'm here.
And then you got the amazing letter that you are in.
Yes.
Because the competition was hard. It was 700 applicants for 30 plus spots. I think we were 32 at the beginning.
Yes.
And then you got this amazing message, and then you need to change your life again, because the studies happens in 3 locations. First year is located in small European country Latvia, in a tiny town called Kuldiga, and then the second year we split between Tallinn, Estonia, and Rovaniemi, Finland.
Yes.
And now it's been like 1 year since me and Gina are together in the same class in Kuldiga. So tell us, so you have been traveling all these places, and then you come to Latvia. Did you know, like, about Latvia?
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't know much. I mean, I know it existed.
Okay, that's good already because almost everyone in this talk tells me they didn't know about Latvia in general, so that's fine. You knew it existed.
Of course, I knew it existed, and I think that was the appealing for me because, on top of all the things that we mentioned, I'm also a junkie for traveling. So I was like, perfect. I'm gonna be in 3 countries that I've never been in. So there was an extra appeal to me, right? Because if I said, okay, go back to London, like, been there, done that. Go to Belgium, been there, done that. But it was like, 2 Baltic countries and a northern country. Yes. So of course, but I didn't know anything about Latvia. I need to be honest. And that's good because I got to know much more, and the Baltic culture is ethos is very different from Southern Europe, and I like difference.
And I'm trying to imagine your perspective. So you then buy your tickets and you come to Latvia. So you arrive Latvia, and then what do you do next? You come to Kuldiga, straight to Kuldiga?
So I'm gonna try to be fast, but the story is I was gonna stay in Australia maybe for 2-3 years. So suddenly I'm like, guys, change your plan. I'm going to Latvia. My mom was like, oh, Gina, what's up with this now? Like they struggled to catch up with me. I'm like, yes, I'm coming back to Europe. I'm going to Latvia to study. Okay, fine. Okay, Gina. So I kind of leave all my plans behind,
To me, it sounds like your parents have like really fun life with you.
Yes. I love that because they just let me, and this is what I want. Like independence and freedom are everything to me. And, if I was them, sometimes maybe I would be annoying, but no, they're so cool. They're like, you do you, Gina, and this is the best thing you can do for your kids, I think. Just let them do what they want. Okay, sometimes I'm crazy, sometimes I take the wrong choices, but it's also learning. So I'm like, I love them because they never question me, Of course, they ask, they're interested, but they're like, okay, fine, you want to go to Australia, leave your job, fine. Oh, you want to go to Kuldiga, fine. And they came with me to Kuldiga.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, so you flew in here with
so
your
I flew
family.
to Florence first. In the process, I also got COVID. So I arrived home, I was fucked, and I'm like, Mama, please help me. So it was so good to see my mom. Sometimes you're a grown-ass woman, but sometimes you just need you just need your mom to feed you and give you soup and give you ibuprofen or paracetamol. So they took care of me. So I didn't get to see almost anyone at home because I was quarantined basically. I was lucky enough actually that back then you didn't have to show that you were fine. But I was on the plane from Sydney to Seoul. I was fucked. I arrived to Seoul airport. I had 40 degrees fever. I was sleeping on the floor, and then I dragged myself in the plane. I had my mask on. The lady next to me was like, she knew that I was sick. I was like, please don't say anything, please. I want to go home. So I arrived in Florence. I was like, please, I was dying. And then I basically stayed there for 1 week in quarantine. Then still not feeling super well. I came to Latvia because I had already bought my tickets, and I had all these grand plans of going with my parents around. We got a car, but then in the end they had to go mostly by themselves to places, and I was dying in an Airbnb in the old town in Riga for 3-4 days, and then they dragged me to Kuldiga, and I was stuck in the room of my room in the White House because I knew I was going to share with 5 other people, and I still was not feeling well, so I didn't want to spread the thing, so I didn't get to see anybody. And apparently my mom was talking to all the flatmates.
Oh, really?
Afterwards, Tim was like, oh, your mom is so cool. She came into my room and she asked me for my name, and then she started singing in German because she loves German. And I'm like, oh, this is classic Gina mom. This is how I am like this because of her.
She might be extroverted too, I guess. Well, just to give a context, so all of the students have rented some places to live, and there is a bunch of people who have rented the White House.
The White House.
Yes, and they live how many people do you live together?
So we've been 6 people until January, and then our brother Julian moved by himself. So now we've been since January. We've been 5.
And this is where your mom was organizing the stuff in the first week.
Yes.
Okay, and then you saw the small town. How do you feel it? Of course, I'm going to ask you, how do you feel about Latvian culture? Yeah. How do you feel about Kuldiga? How do you like it or don't like it here?
Yes.
What do you feel in here?
Oh my God. So I don't know why people complain all the time. I loved it here because I've always been living in big cities. They actually fuel my anxiety. I think I used to say I'm a big city girl, but then I came here and I'm like, actually I can be also a rural girl. I can be anything I want. And I think, for somebody like me who gets overstimulated and has anxiety, Kuldiga is just a perfect place, because also I had been traveling for 10 months in Australia, like sleeping on floors, hostels and stuff, and everything's so busy and you have to hustle all the time. And then you get here and it's like you're immersed with nature. And this is like the biggest thing that I like about Latvia is the nature is great. And the silence, and there's many less people on the streets, and everywhere you go, sometimes you're just alone, and sometimes it's fine to be alone, you know? This is also something that I've learned, and I think we had the discussion, you know, we were talking about kids and how we always try to get kids to have friends or be together. Actually, learning how to be alone is so good. And, you know, after traveling so much, I did most of my travels actually with my friend Martina, who's also Italian but was living in London. And, you know, sometimes it's more comfortable to be with somebody, but it's okay to be alone. So yeah, here, that's a great thing, you know. It's super connected with nature, it's quiet, it looks like the set of a movie. The cobblestones of Kuldiga are nice and strong, citation. It's so different the way houses are built. It's very interesting to me because in Italy we always pride ourselves into, you know, the design and architecture of our buildings. And here it's so different, you know, with the wooden things, the forests are amazing. My dad went ballistic because he went into the forest and he found so many mushrooms. And in Italy, you go to a forest, you don't find them because there's so many people going there to hunt for them, you know? And here, there's many less people. I mean, still people do, but it's just it's more preserved and it's more natural. There's less infrastructure, and it's great. I love it. And the Ventas room, I mean, it's what a great, you know, the widest waterfall. Yeah. You know, it's so funny because you say, oh, the widest waterfall, and then it's so short.
Yeah, in Kuldiga there's the widest waterfall in Europe. And
yes. And so I didn't see pictures because I did all this in a rush, you know. So I just heard from the brochure the widest waterfall. So you imagine, I don't know, the Niagara Falls, and then you get here and sure, it is wide, but it's so short.
It's so cute.
It's the cutest. Yes, but I was like, oh, okay. But no, we love it, of course. And then since we've been here, actually, many new things have popped up, like the viewing tower. I love going to the viewing tower. I go there a lot. You see of the whole view, and lots of initiatives. And for being such a small town, actually, it's very active. First of all, it's very active. So there's always something going on, like culture related, like there are activities to do. You know, we always complain there's nothing to do. Yeah, because we don't do it, but there are things to do. So it's on us that we don't do it first. And the second thing is people care a lot here. They take care of places. Everything is clean. You see people racking the leaves. Like, you know, in big cities, people don't care. They litter, they trash, nobody. So when you're in a smaller place and people are proud of where they are, everyone looks after everything. And it's so nice to see, you know? So I loved it here. I think Kuldiga and SDSI came at the perfect moment in my life where I needed this. So I'm happy, you know. I don't think I gave up something. I don't feel the need to go to Riga every other weekend. Actually, I'm like, I would rather stay here.
And how do you find the culture here?
Yes, you know, it's funny because I don't have enough information to assess it properly because actually most of us are not from Latvia, and we stick together a lot. So I don't want to say too much because I haven't integrated fully. But I try my best. Like, I learned Latvian. I really like the language. And thanks to Lulu, who also has learned some folklore songs, I also started to understand the meaning of the folklore songs. I really like this pagan nature linked to Latvia in comparison to other countries where religion is very important. And, you know, I have nothing against religion. I was raised Catholic and it's fine. I'm also a spiritual person. But it's nice to see countries where this paganism and pagan... traditions are still alive. And you know, yesterday we were in Duna and there was the choir singing, dressed with the original outfits. It's such a beautiful symbol of a country, you know, that we should never lose this. And in bigger countries like Italy, we've kind of lost it. Like in the south of Italy, still people have traditional dances, traditional things, but in Tuscany we really don't. And it's sad because we used to have it, right? And it's part of your culture you should keep alive. So these are the small things that you see here. I think maybe because it's a smaller country and also because it's a relatively new country, you know? It's been, in the last 30 years, everything had to be rebuilt and people have to hold on to their traditions. It's nice to see it, the history, it's very interesting. So I would say, because what's culture? You know, culture is everything. So of course, like one thing that I can say, of course, as an Italian extroverted person, is people are different here. They are more quiet, which is nice, and introverted maybe, some, and they may not be so quick to open up to you and to smile, but if you do, okay, you're different. But in general, I'm talking now. The people on the street,
But just to give a context, I'm Latvian.
I'm from Kuldiga.
And I'm from Kuldiga. Yeah, I'm like local here because well, I am not jumping into about me, but I was born here and I was living here for the first 18 years, and then I moved away, and then I came back to study here.
Yes.
And then you were saying that you kind of because the class is international, very international. So it's basically you guys stick together with each other. And then I also noticed how deep interest you guys have about the culture here, about the people, about what do people eat, what do they do. Yesterday there was flags out. People were why do they have flags out? What is happening here? And is it a Memorial Day? What is this dance happening? And then also when the Christmas was coming closer, people what do you do for Christmas?
Yes.
Do you have a Christmas tree at home?
Yes.
So, and I felt you have this will to get to know the local culture and local life in general.
Absolutely.
But meanwhile, the locals are a bit introverted, as you said. So they might not jump to the foreigners. And also the town is very it is not super international.
Yes.
So it's kind of basically locals here. So I think the locals would not be majority of them would not be extroverted enough to go to someone, for instance, to you and say Gina, do you want to come to our family dinner? Do you want to come to our whatever wedding or whatever happening here? So that's why I started this. I noticed this, and then I went to the program director and said hey, these guys need some support from locals because they really want to know the life here. And meanwhile, being as a local, I also noticed that locals actually are really interested in you, just that they don't have this how do they come to on the street and say come to my home. So next year the students will have this opportunity to immerse in local lives. They will have these local buddies. So we have organized, and I feel my heart is burning for each of them because I'm so excited. They will get actually locals have promised to bring them to the home and show
cool. And I think, as you mentioned, we really did try. I think we got quite close with our landlords. We love them. Davis and Anna, they live just outside of Kuldiga in the countryside, and they have 4 super cute kids. And he's a designer actually, and she's also studied at the Maklas Academia. So when they kind of redid the White House, it's it's a cool place to be, and they're very cool people. So they also invited us to their home, and for Christmas we went to the forest to pick up our trees together, and then we also got quite close with Anita, who was our Latvian teacher. So we involved her also in all our projects. So and then we got to visit her home.
Oh really?
Yes.
Okay.
I was let's ask her. And then she was very open. She was yeah, sure, come. And her husband was around, and she was showing us stuff. It's related to energy. So he was showing us they have solar panels on the roof. So I think service design again is something that brings people together in a way, right? Because you have to talk to people. So even if it's just for school job, you have to actually reach out to people and talk to them.
And you have to say I want to go to visit your home.
So it's great that there will be a program. So I think some of us integrated much more than others. I know Timi from Romania, she has her church community, so even going to the church, she gets invited to things and weddings, and now with the landlords. So it's nice, but you have to, of course, make the effort. But once you do, then people, of course, will open up to you. And then everyone's so busy here, also life in Kuldiga is not easy for everybody, People have to work a lot, they have to wake up really early, some of them have jobs in Riga, they have to travel. So, we take into account that, we are here kind of, some of us here are full-time students, including me, so we have lots of time, but it's not that everyone has time for you or your project, so I respect that and I understand it.
Yeah, that's nice.
But everyone has been so nice, actually, and learning Latvian has been interesting. And when you hear Bukštins at the shitty place, now they like it. Now they like it. When we speak Latvian.
You speak Latvian with them, so
yes,
that's
I order. Man lūdzu kartupeļu pankūkas. Paldies, bet no crēmium, because I'm vegan, okay?
Well, I think that's also one way. How do you open the get to the hearts of the locals? Like you just start speaking their language. And Gina, so what are your plans next? So we are going to end. Like we have actually the last week of studies happening now. So what do you do next? Yes, this is maybe the last conversation that we're having.
Linda.
So go ahead. What is your what are your plans next? Which is of course,
Yeah.
you know.
So this summer I want to spend some time with my family because, as I mentioned, after Australia I was there for 18 months and I've been living abroad for so long. So I want to try and spend some time, quality time with them. And also I have a summer school on systemic design and the prevention of non-communicable diseases lined up in France. Also I'm hosting one of our classmates, Lynn from Vietnam, in Florence. I want to show her my country. And then I am off to Tallinn, to the Estonian Academy of Art. I decided to pick that country first because they are offering the courses that I'm most interested in, which are all about sustainable transition and sustainable design, which is right up my sleeve. And after that, I'm gonna go to Rovaniemi because I want to do quite, let's say, a traditional academic thesis. Because maybe after that I could try and see if I manage to get into some sort of PhD program. Either in Rovaniemi or Tallinn or elsewhere, I don't know. This is one of the options.
Yes.
This is one of the options. But you know, as I am, I always have like 100 plans. Like plan A, plan B, plan C. So this is definitely not plan A, but it is a plan. Otherwise, I could always go back to some more, let's say, communications, marketing, and advocacy-related jobs, but now bringing more of a service design lens. That could be, again, in Brussels or the UK. I'm lucky enough, I have EU settled status in the UK, so I can go and resettle and live there easily, even after Brexit. The other option would be, of course, to find a job as a service designer, whatever that means, because I still do not know.
Actually, you know what? I feel guilty because in the middle, I mistakenly skipped question, but I'm gonna ask you.
Oh no!
I skipped the question. How do you describe what is service design, and how do you describe it to the people who don't know it? And you just started saying that you still don't know what it is. So go ahead, tell me.
I still don't know. Good question. So maybe one preamble is, I've heard different approaches to how we interpret the whole definition.
Yeah.
Some people say the definition doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter how you call it. It's just that you do it, because service design is not about thinking, it's about doing, or it's kind of small thinking, more doing. And other people are like, no, but you have to be very precise because it's different from UX design, it's different from this and that. So I'm still figuring out where I stand in this continuum. And in the meantime, I struggle.
But then how do you explain, what do you study here? How do you explain to your parents, to everyone who you meet, like, what is service design?
Yes, I don't explain. No, usually, actually, I explain it through examples. Like I would say, for instance, we have collaborated with Riga International Airport. Riga International Airport want to become a bigger hub in the Baltics. So they have to be really good on the customer experience. So what we do is we looked at what kind of customers they get and decided, okay, who are we going to help? So we did some research, we talked to them to improve their own experience. So I think when you use examples, it's a bit easier, maybe for some people. But in general, and here, sorry, I'm going to have to take my notes because I was thinking about this yesterday night at 4 a.m.
So that's good. I dared to ask this question, even though it was like lost in my list. But yeah, go ahead.
Yes. So what I wrote here actually is I would describe it as a creative and collaborative approach to designing services. And I think we need to clarify when we talk about services to people what we mean, because this is also another huge deal in service design is the service dominant logic. So everything is a service, you know?
Yes.
Like this water bottle is a service because you have to be produced, you have to manufacture. So already when you get there, you have to describe it. But basically, yes. So a collaborative and creative approach to designing services, new or existing.
Yes.
So this is the first aspect. And then I would say something about balancing. So this approach has to balance the service user's needs, whatever service user means for you. So, for instance, I was working in charities, so we don't have users as such, we have beneficiaries. You work for the government, it will be citizens. You work for a company, it will be customers. Yes. So already this. So it needs to balance their needs and the needs of the organization. Whatever organization is it the government, is it a charity, is it a transnational corporation, whatever. So this is how I'm gonna describe it. And then to add a bit further to this, I would say you would do so by using some methods, tools, principles, and mindsets that draw from different disciplines. And in service design, strategy innovation program, I would say the main 4 disciplines are social research, business, design as a whole. Oh, I smacked my mic. And technology. So these are the 4 ones. So this is how I'm going to describe it.
Okay. And then, just like to, because I know like a while ago you were already looking for a job or for something like that to become a trustee in some organization. So that's what you're also considering to do, and that's what you would like to do.
Yes, definitely. So I have this big thing. I think it's related to being a woman or having anxiety, that you always think that you don't know enough. Right? But I'm 31 years old. I've done a lot, so I need to stop saying this. So I want to give back, and not just as a volunteer, but also more at the strategic level. And this also maybe will be something that hopefully could open some career path where you do strategic design for charities. So when you apply for being a trustee in a charity, then you get to see a bit more like the business side of things, you know? How does it work inside, not just the delivery of a service, whatever they do, but like how is it organized? So I applied. Unfortunately, I didn't get the position because I do miss, it's true, a lot of the business and legal knowledge that was required for the particular position. Or maybe sometimes it's also, which is true, but sometimes it also depends on which year, you know, if the board has already people like me, like there was already 2 people who are people who went through the program themselves, it's harder. But I will apply again, and I'm still involved now. As I was mentioning before, maybe I'm also very interested in human resources. So as part of the program, you have to assess a lot of applications, and they're really focused on using a specific program that's called the Applied Platform, who minimizes biases. So you don't see names, you don't see ages, you don't see backgrounds, you don't see race, and you don't mark full application of a single person, but you just mark one question across different applications, and everything is double marked. So I'm really interested in that, you know, because cognitive biases and biases in general are also a huge part of human behavior, understanding people. So I'm helping with those in a volunteer capacity. And also this year, I've decided to also help them mark what they call the impact research. So as part of the program, everyone has to write a piece of research as if they would be pro bono consultants for the organization, taking like an issue. It could be also service design related, and you know they produce either a 10 pages report or a presentation, and I'm gonna mark them. Because another thing I'm interested in is also teaching potentially. So one of the many plans after maybe a PhD could be teaching something. Who knows? Coming back to the comms, as I mentioned, continuing my path in the advocacy and activism. Now I learned there's something called social designer, whatever that means. I think it's being a service designer, but in the community. And this could be linked to whatever I just mentioned about maybe becoming more of somebody helping charities designing their services better and the strategies. So that's something I would be interested in.
Very interesting, very interesting. So Gina, the last question. If someone wants to contact you, where do they find you?
Woohoo! So, I worked in communication, I'm actually kind of a boomer. So they can find, I would say the best way would be to find me on LinkedIn. Yeah. LinkedIn, Ginevra Papi, Ginevra Papi.
We will add your link to the description.
Yes.
And I can just wish you to like stay energetic and like fun as you are, because you're the one like who is kind of like always making sure that people have fun.
Yes, we have to. What is life about fun? And you know, this is also like lessons in service design. When you talk about leadership, we talk a lot about playfulness. How do we bring back playfulness from of course in an appropriate way, you know, not like sometimes happens here. Puntini. But yeah, playfulness also in what we do as adults, as in service design, because yes, the process is supposed to be fun as well, not just the draining. Let's keep it fun.
I will just share a small inside thing. So, when we have classes, lectures, and when teachers talk too much, when lecturers are like kind of talking too much, Gina is the first one to notice that, and she has a note. She has a sign that says "break, please."
Yes,
and she would from the back seat she would put up the note, "break, please, break, please." So it's kind of like she always make sure we have some fun and our rights are protected because like we need some fun in the middle, and that's like that always makes like everyone smile, and that usually makes the lecturers smile as well because they realize like these people need some break. So
I love it, and when I forget it, there's always some people now that turns to me for like, Gina, please ask for a break. Okay, guys, let's go break.
yeah. So it's been like super cool to be with you
I
together.
talk too much.
This year. No, that's good. Like people will know you better. So I truly wish you to fulfill all your dreams and all your like so you get to the success that means success to you, so you feel satisfied and so you fulfill yourself. And thank you very much for coming here.
Thanks a lot, Linda.
I will hug you in a minute when we so thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thank you very much for listening, and yeah, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.